I'm so excited you are here. So I'm only on one screen tonight. So I'm like a lot of you. I'm only on one screen. All right, so that's okay. We're gonna jump into trail mix, pick up where we kind of left off. But we just completed data security. And that was a big module, right? Talking about data security, access to the org, how you set up your password policies, your users, and their some of the basics about login restrictions that are connected to the profile, access to object, which is the cred that every profile has, access to fields, which is field level security controlled by both the profile or the field, where you could choose the profiles and whether they can read or edit a field, even see it or edit it. And then based on the organization-wide defaults, we talked about, and how the default settings control what records a user can access. And in that access of records, how you get access to records you don't OWN when you've restricted access because of a user in your org that isn't supposed to see or edit a particular record. So we have to manage all of those things to make it work with role hierarchy. So the ownership rolls it to the parent in the hierarchy, but sometimes you need to share records across the lane, and that's where sharing rules come in. Now, the other thing we didn't talk about in the sharing rules, which is fine because we talked about it, was using manual sharing or teams in order to share records. So I'm just going to open up I'm going to click retake the challenge just so I can relaunch my playground. And let me just see if in this particular trail mix that we're in, I don't think they're going to cover next the next is formulas and validations, which is part of customization. So what they're not going to talk about next is teams. Teams and manual sharing is what I want to talk about right now before we leave data security. So if you work in a collaborative selling environment, that means, and you're operating under some type of restricted record access. That is a private or hybrid model. So you have your records set at the OWD to be private or read-only, so that not everybody can do everything just based on their profile, but rather their profile plus your record access, right? What your organization-wide defaults are. So when we talk about that, it all starts with sharing rules, right? The sharing settings determine record access beyond the license access of the profile. So remember, the profile grants create, read, edit, delete permission. The OWD says you only have that permission on records you OWN for if it's private or public read only. You can't edit, even if you have the license, you can't edit what you don't own. Another way to say it is you can't sell your friend's car, right? So you have to have a way to get around that. So we have the role hierarchy. So record access, ownership access rolls up the chain. And then here in the sharing settings, the sharing rules share across the lane. And we might have created a few sharing rules already. Maybe. Looks like we might have. At the bottom, there's a lot of extra stuff we've created, right? Yeah. So we created some sharing rules. And I think I left you with an assignment to complete those rules. So let me be clear with that assignment. Because in the sharing rules, I believe did we run pretty tight on Monday for the challenge? Like I don't know if we completed the challenge or not. So let's look and see. Let's just check.
It was.
What's that?
It was task mandate.
Yeah, I wanted to get through the topic more than I wanted to complete the exercise. So the requirements are create a custom field called pick list. Create a pick list called priority with the values high, medium, and low. And we make it available in all project layouts. So let's just check our project object for a second. Type in project. Turns out you got to spell it right. So I got projects. And I think the project, so yeah, we have a priority field. Awesome. And it's really, and a project name. So that's good. Then we create a sharing rule for project that if the priority is high, we share it with the training coordinator. So let's look at our sharing rules and see what we did. There it is. If the project priority equals high, then share with the role training coordinator. So we did that. Anybody not do that or have any questions about doing that? Again, why is this important? It's important so people don't get overwhelmed by stuff that doesn't matter and that they don't make mistakes where they shouldn't be playing, right? So they have to stay in their playground. I'm looking around my office or something. Okay. So, all right, so we completed it, but if you didn't complete it or if you have a question about it, then go ahead and ask me or go ahead and complete it. So check your challenge to earn the 500 points and then let me know if you completed it or not. Are y'all good? It's just you two. Are you good?
Yes.
All right, woohoo. Confetti. So the goal is confetti. All right. So now I want to show you where teams live. So if you head over, and I got one screen too. So just head over to the setup menu, click on the home tab, and type in the word team. I think we talked about this as well. Let's just make sure. So a couple of teams that we're worried about. When it comes to sharing records, there's only 3 teams in Salesforce. Oh, mass reassigned teams. That's new. Woo! Okay, there's account teams, opportunity teams, and case teams. Account and opportunity teams all fall under collaborative selling. Service is administered by the system administrator. So that's on the test. That's part of your prep, right? So you don't let users control who can solve a customer's problem. That's something you need more control over. So you Salesforce users to take on the responsibility based on their job and their role and what they do. Now, as you look at the teams on the side, click on account teams. Is everybody there for account teams? So account teams are all, when you enable account teams, you also open the possibility of opportunity teams. Why? Because account teams and opportunity teams share the same pick list value of roles, which we're going to cover pick lists in a minute. So team roles are those roles in your company that someone would interact with an account or an opportunity as part of their job, especially if they're not the owner of the account or the opportunity. So ownership, as you noticed, means something. When we were creating those sharing rules, you could share records based on just who owns it, as in addition to the condition of the record. So those are 2 ways you share a record, based on who owns it. If these people own it, then share it with those people, called group to group. Another way to group records besides ownership is condition. These opportunities are all closed won, so they fall into a group, And I'm going to share all of those records that meet that criteria with all of these users who need to see them when they're like that, like say accounts receivable, right? So that's the way you control sharing by rules. Now, when it comes to teams, it's a modified version of manual sharing. And that is, manual sharing is me sharing to you because I say so. Rules, the roles on the teams allow me to pick people and assign them a role. Now, the role doesn't drive their access or their abilities that you're sharing with them. You can either share, read, or write access to any account or opportunity. And with the account team, when we looked at the role hierarchy, you may remember that when you invoke a private or hybrid data model and you add a role to the role hierarchy, which is different than an account team role. I know it's the same word and it's tough because you got to use the whole sentence for it. The role hierarchy, when you add or a role to the role hierarchy, you have to address the dynamic of what happens to the account, to the children of the account owned by the subordinates below you. And that changes by role. So let's give you an example. I'm going to actually go. You don't have to change your screen. I wish I had a PowerPoint that did this, but I'm going to just show you what's on my screen. So just look at my screen. Don't change anything because it won't help you to change it. So when it comes to users and the role hierarchy, there is a functionality. So for example, I'm going to use the picture that's right here on the screen. Obviously, if a sales rep owns a record, the person above them in the role hierarchy and the person above them inherit all of the ownership rights. Now, when we look at our sharing settings, the ownership rights are very clear, except for accounts, contacts, opportunities, and cases. There's a standard relationship of accounts that built member standard is hardwired the way it is, doesn't change. You can polish it, but you can paint it and polish it, but you can't change it. There's a desired behavior that you have to choose when you go to a private or hybrid model in your data. And that is what happens. So let's say you're the director of international sales. You're Ann Lynn, as a matter of fact. And this is Fumiko Suzuki. That's their names in reality. So Fumiko owns a contact, right? So that means the director and the CEO also own that contact because she's the owner of record, and ownership rolls up the chain. However, because the contact is subordinate to or a child of the account, Fumiko may or can, there's some activity you have to address. So by owning the account, regardless of the data model, by owning the contact, regardless of the data model, you inherit the right to see the account. And this is kind of a hack that some salespeople figure out. They figure out, oh, we don't share accounts unless I can create a contact, then I can see the account. I might not be able to edit it, but all I want to do is see it. Now, they can only see their contacts in that account in a private model, but they still can see the account record. Anybody that owns an account, anybody owns a case or a contact or an opportunity, they automatically can see the account. However, what if you own the account? You have to decide in the role hierarchy what happens when you share the children of the account that someone else owns. So for example,
I have an example.
Well, I got one. I forgot his name. His name is Phil Smith. So let's say Phil Smith owns the contact. Phil Smith can see the account. If Famiko owns the account, Phil can see the account, but it doesn't mean Famiko can see the contact. That you determine in the role. And I'll just show you that for a second. So if I create a new role anywhere in the organization, I'm going to create this one down in sales and marketing. I don't know why I just didn't expand them all, but I didn't. So if I add a role here under the director, you'll see that the first thing it wants to know is, hey, what's the access to the opportunity and what's the access to the case for accounts that I don't, for the accounts that I own, but the children that I don't. Does that make sense? And because the contact record in our sharing model follows the account sharing model individually, we don't see the contact here because the contact will be owned by whoever owns the account because that it shares that. That's what we set up here. So any role that you create there's going to be an exception to the organization-wide defaults that you define based on the role that person is in. How do they interact with the children of the account records that they own? And so let me go back to my little picture here. At every role, you get to remember the account ownership is rolling up to you anyway. But at every role, you could say, oh, at this role, you can't see anything, opportunities or cases or contacts. But at this role, you can see, you own that account that your sales reps is the owner of, but you can define the level of access at every role, what they can do with the children of the account. Does that make sense? And then every role, CEO, every role all the way up and down. Welcome to the call. I think that's Brian. Welcome, Brian. You'll be able to catch up because we're just kind of recapping what we talked about before, reminding you of how this works. So why is that important? Well, when you use Teams for that record, you're actually doing the same thing. You're defining the level of access to the children that you have access to as the owner. So it's all this dynamic about the account team, right? So the team role doesn't drive any of that. The team role just designates kind of what their responsibilities or accountabilities are for that account or opportunity, even if they're not the owner, but especially since they're not the owner of the account. Does that make sense? So it's a different kind of role. And when you add somebody, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to go to one of my accounts. And I'm just going to demonstrate it. If I add you as an account team member, then I'm doing the same thing. I'm saying, who am I? Ada has a role. Again, this is just communicating. I'm setting the default level of access when I share this record to either read only or read write. Now, so that's for the account. Let's say I give them read write access on the account. And on the case, you can see I have the ability to give them read write or read only for the cases that I have that level of access to. And for the opportunity, same thing. I can give them read or read write access. Now, does that make sense, everybody? So it's the same thing as role hierarchy, but it's at a one-off level. And it's still impacted by the role hierarchy. So this doesn't grant any additional permissions. If that owner of the account doesn't have access to a contact, neither does the account team member. So you inherit all of the sharing rights of the account that the owner gives you, as well as the children in conjunction with their role and the rules about and the OWD and sharing. Basically, you're just granting them access to the level of your abilities. You can't out share records from your data model. Security is always going to trump every desire you have, even what the screen says. So does that make sense to everybody? Is that clear? Is it clear-ish? So now on the account team, the reason the account teams are different, if you go to the accounts tab, and let's say I want to create a list view, and I'm going to call it account team example. And I'm creating a list view called My Account Teams. And the first thing I need to do is filter the account by ownership. You can see that the first scope of the records returned in the list view could be records that I own, where my user record is the same as the owner field on the account records, or all of the records, no matter who owns it. The problem with that is now you got to use data to figure out which ones are yours or something else. Well, there's a feature called Teams that I can say, you know what? I have accountability and responsibility to accounts, even though I'm not the owner of the account, because I've been placed on the account team. That will filter the account records to just the records where I'm on the team. And in this example, I got none, which is totally appropriate because I'm on no teams. I'm the owner of record. So if I go to my accounts real quick, and I go to this page, and I add team members, I think I can even add myself as a team member, because maybe, why am I doing this? And it doesn't really matter because I already have, it doesn't matter what access I give. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what access I give myself. Like I could say, no, everything, remember, look what I did. Edit, I'm going to edit the roles so you can see it. In that Dominic has full access to the account, and it actually overrode it anyway. So even though I left it at private, or read, whatever, it said, no, dude, you got full access anyway. So I'm really glad they use the term full access. It's coming back. So when I go now to my list view, I'm using my little caret, I can see my account teams is where I'm a member of the account team. Did y'all see how that worked? Even though I own the account, I designated this as a collaborative selling team or collaborative team. So some of your accounts you may work with other people on. You could, if you want to identify those accounts that have teams, you can add yourself to the accounts. You could also add yourself to the opportunity team. Again, it's a way to filter the records by a different kind of ownership. Because maybe all your, again, and if it wasn't myself in this limited sandbox doing this, you could also determine that, or playground, because it's not a sandbox, it's a playground. You could also, you might be a member of someone else's account, and that's a great way to filter as well, right? And if you wanted to do that, and you could, now you can add another layer of filter that says account. I'm not gonna go that. Not going to go in that tunnel. It's an advanced tunnel you don't need. All right. So that's where account teams come from. Does that make sense? Now, what we discovered, we did this before, which was, remember, opportunities and accounts share the same list of pick list values, because, and so you would have a robust list of these things. But if you want to set your default team, so if you've got players that you want to play, click on your settings after your profile, and then click on your advanced user details. Another way to do this is to go to your user record. It's totally fine. So however you get to your user record, I'll give you a minute. So click on your face, go to user details, or go to users and then find your own account. You find your own user record. And you set up your default opportunity team and your default account team. It takes a little mouse foo, so I just click the team. And I can add a default team, other users that are my usual suspects. So I got Ada, Just going to click the lollipop. I'll pick Ada. And then I set the level of access. Maybe she is the dedicated support rep. I don't think I'm going to run out of people, by the way, but we'll see. And then I click save. Now, a couple of things that you might not have noticed on the screen because I clicked save too damn fast, but that's okay. It's all right. I'll just go down here and look at it. So now I have a default account team. I also have, I could create a default opportunity team. Let's say it's just Ada on this case. That when I create an account, it's Ada, and her role is now on accounts, she's really the sales manager, who knows. Now notice I got a couple of options up top, and the same options live on the account team. When you're adding a team member, you can automatically add your default team member to opportunities or accounts when you create them or if they get transferred to you. So when you take ownership of an account, it'll automatically add your team. You only do that if that's true. And you can even update your existing records right now while you're adding this team member to add this team member. So if I click on that and I have them both checked, every opportunity that I create or inherit, Ada is going to be a part of the team. If I just want to leave the past alone, I would just do it from this point forward. And if I want to continue to do it manually, then I would leave it unchecked. But I am going to do the awesomely automatic one. So now when I go to my opportunities, past, present, or future, and I go down to my opportunity team related list, I'll see Ada because I automatically did it. So it's a choice and it works the same way, opportunity teams. Now, there's a scenario where you say, and it's on the test because they really want to make sure you understand this. Ada is on my account team. Ada is on my account team by default, but I didn't add her to all my account teams. I just added her to this opportunity. So because we use account teams, you might have noticed, like, well, wait a minute. And if I add the default account team, you might say, well, why would you add Ada twice? Why would you add her to the account and then add her to the opportunity of that account? She already has access because of her position on the account team. To which I would say, well, in this account team role, she's dedicated support rep, right? That's what she's doing. She's supporting it. Even though she's actively engaged in an opportunity, on all my opportunities, for this account, she's stepping in to be additional support. Not that the label of her role drives that, it just communicates that. So your pick list values should communicate the kinds of work people do in different accountabilities on the account or the opportunity. Another way to say it is, wait a minute, if I change my default opportunity team settings, and I want to give her just read-only access, and I'm going to say she's not a sales manager, she's a pre-sales consultant, or whatever she is on my, I can update her role on all those opportunities, or I can remove her from my team of an individual team. So any opportunity I go to, she'll be on that team unless I take her off the team for that opportunity or never added her in the first place. So she's now a pre-sales consultant and I can remove her. I'm not deleting her record, I'm just removing her from that team role. Or I can add her back individually as part of my default team, or add my account team to this opportunity, or add opportunity team members one-off that aren't part of my defaults. So it's really a question of why you do it. So again, if somebody's on the account team and they're on all my accounts and they have access, this is to all the cases, opportunities, and contacts of all my accounts, would I add them to an opportunity team? And the answer is if they're playing a role in that opportunity. Because let's say, you know, they're on the account team, but they don't really, even though you've given them access to opportunities through their account team role, right? You got the account team. Even though you've given them access to the opportunities, by being on the account team, then it doesn't mean that they have any, like, so for example, the guest admin, just because he's on the account team and has read access to the opportunities, doesn't mean he has any responsibility or accountability to any specific opportunity. Adding them to the opportunity team designates they've got some specific accountability or responsibility to that opportunity. So it sometimes overlaps, right? There is no, there's case teams do the same thing. So does that make sense to you guys? That's team selling and team sharing. So the teams indicate a level of accountability and responsibility to that account, even though they're not physically the account or opportunity owner. Questions, comments, complaints? Does that make sense? Okay. And of course, and the reason I'm saying this is because they do ask that on the test, to say I know one of the answers is you need to give somebody access to a specific opportunity. And one of the answers is add them to the account team with read-write access to the opportunity, which does give them access to that opportunity, but it does not, it gives them access to all the opportunities on that account, not just a specific opportunity. The opportunity team designation creates a relationship to the specific opportunity. So it's an individual share. Even if they're on the account team, it still does not mean they have designated responsibilities or accountabilities for that opportunity. Okay. How awesome is that? You guys good? Going to my next one. So now we're going to jump into formula fields and validations and roll-up summary fields. I'm going to put that in the chat. Okay, so we're going to jump in this trail. Now, here's the thing I know about these trails. I know I'm already completed them, but you know if we've completed them or not. So I need your help and feedback telling me where we're at in the process, right? And the slowest learner wins. I mean that slowest, like slowest to complete, not slow like to process and understand. I know you're all smart enough to do this. So let's talk about formulas and validations, because this is one of the customizations. We've already created some fields, right, on the objects, which are like columns in a spreadsheet. And formula fields are just a more robust type of field. So we're going to create formula fields, use the formula editor, make sure you understand where they're useful, outlet a use case, and create a simple formula. And it ends in a challenge. So you get to do it no matter what, right? So you get to retake the challenge. And so formulas, here's what I can tell you about formulas. If you struggle with formulas, you're going to struggle with formulas. The reason is, and I'm just giving you the bad news, right? The reason is The reason you struggle with formulas is you don't like doing algebra. You never liked it. You hated it in school, and you don't want to do it now. So here's the solution. Whenever you have to do a formula field, go find somebody who loves doing formula fields. They're in the community. I got a guy for 65 bucks, I'm sorry, 75 bucks an hour. He's up now. For 75 bucks an hour, he'll do formulas all day and night faster than you can do it if you tried to pay yourself 10 bucks an hour. You'll do it cheaper and faster. But formula fields do the math for you, and they do it accurately and completely, depending on how you write your field. So you've got a lot of data, and understanding the data usually comes from some combination of the data, and that's what a formula does. And you want to find out the percentage of this or the total of that, those kind of things, right? So there's different kind of formula fields that'll do those calculations. What kind of calculations? A lot of types of calculations. More calculations than I know, because you know what? I'm one of those people who does not like formula fields. I know them a little, but I have to remember that I don't like them, so I don't love them, so I don't do them very well, and I just pay 75 bucks to Handy. Degbion is his last name. And Handy will do it for me because he's just that handy. You with me? So, again, anything you want to do, right? So you want to, what does it say? So formula fields really, it's really a good statement right there. It gives you control of how your data is displayed. And that's good news. I'll tell you more. So you want to take two number fields and divide them to create a percentage. Or you want to turn a field into a clickable hyperlink for access to information from a record's page layout. Maybe take two dates and calculate the number of days between them. All those are possible with formula fields. So here's an example. You want to calculate how many days are left until an opportunity's close date. A timer, a TikTok, right? Not TikTok like a video, but TikTok like timer's going, you got 7 days to close this deal, get up on it. And then if you do that, you might even be able to create some automation around that to say, hey, when it gets to, that's another way to use the idea of formulas. You wouldn't use a formula field for that. You would just use a formula to calculate when to trigger an action. Hey, it's 5 days before the speaking engagement. Send out the info email that says, boom, boom, boom. Confirm this, confirm that, confirm that. It's got a couple links in it. They click the links, boom. Life is good. Updates the data. Everybody's happy. You walk in, you speak, you get paid, you're done. So you want to calculate by adding that to the opportunity layout. It also adds it to list views, reports, and page layouts and other like you could even say, you know, I got 5 opportunities that are closing within 5 days on this one account. Oh, wow. That's a sales ops way to do it. It shows up in reports, it shows up on the page, and it shows up in list views. So it's better to start simple to get the concept down. I want you to get the concept down. And if you're really good at formulas, you're going to get paid instead of Handy. You just got to practice it and learn how to do it in Salesforce. But you're probably really good with formulas with Excel right now, and some of those really transfer over. So we're gonna look for the formula editor in the fields, and let's get to know some of its features, right? So if you, I'm gonna use the screen on the picture, so don't go there yet. We'll take you there in a minute. So when you open up a formula field, you have the page editor. So you can choose simple or advanced. The difference between simple and advanced is simple just pulls from that object that you're building the field for. Advanced includes the related objects that you can use to calculate. On this formula, if the amount is over 10,000, then contact the executive at the account to include them in the process because they need their approval too. Yep. Whatever the rules of life are, formulas are how you get it in. Yeah, you could do all that, right? So once that, amount goes over 10,000, otherwise do nothing. So once that amount goes over 10,000, you can dig around to all the related records, find who it is, and boom, 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 boom. Send that. That's really an automation, but display that or this, that, like whatever it is, right? So you can make it do what you want. The insert field button when you're just starting with formulas, it's better to insert the field from the tool versus typing it out and risking a mistake, because computers are dumb. They only do exactly what you tell them on a scale of 0 or 1. And on that scale, it either worked or it didn't, and it's not the computer's fault. It just does what it does. The operators are things like equals, plus, minus, subtract, open parentheses, close parentheses, and, or, not, and this, and all that. You write out you use the functions or built-in little tools so you can use different functions. And if you know formulas, you're very familiar with some of these already. But it's basically testing your data so that the formula calculates. Again, it's one big algebra thing or calculus. I don't even know. Right? You got all that. So then there's the formula editor, which when you watch somebody write a formula, and you could go on this help, and it's a complex, long page. I don't know where they write it before they get it in formula. It's amazing to see how they do it. It's code, right? So kind of like a code. And then the last thing is it's really beautiful. The last thing is number 6, where you check the syntax. And again, you're writing a sentence to tell the computer what to do based on the data contained in your database. You got to make sure that you're telling it correctly. You didn't miss any functions that will confuse the computer, because the computer moves one bit at a time, one byte at a time. And we'll take that tour, and you can see when you insert a field using the advanced formula, you see this little layout here where it's got a little alligator at the end of the line. Yeah, that's what we call in Louisiana an alligator, because the greater than looks like an alligator coming to eat you. Waka, 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 waka. You call it a Pac-Man too. But Pac-Man goes away.
What do you call less than?
Less than is a Pac-Man. I don't know what you call less than. It ain't an alligator. Alligator coming to get you is what you got to be concerned about. Don't concern about nothing else. Who that? So anyway, what it's pointing to is that this is pointing to the account object. This is pointing to the API, the label, the organization, the profile, the setup, the system, the user, right? And you see it points to the account. It's got the account field that you can access. Now the account owner is a user, right? So if you click on that, it'll take you back to the user record, but it's a specific user, not any user, a specific user that owns this one. So you can, again, anywhere it's related, you can follow that trail. The operator button actually takes you through all of these are all the operators. Equal to, less than, greater than, I guess the less than would be Pac-Man, because it's going away. It's running away and the alligator's coming at you. Less than or equal to is I don't know, now it's getting crazy, right? It's just something we did as kids in this crazy town. So these are all your operators. I highly recommend that you use, even though you know how to type these things, use the click tools as a way to go through it. Now the functions really, they when you click on a function, it kind of it shows you what it's going to insert, right? So round the number to the number digits, whatever that means, and it rounds a number to a specified number of digits. So round whatever number to 3 digits, because you want a 3-digit number. That's what it's saying. So you're going to point it to a field, whatever number field that is, and you're going to limit the number of digits to whatever you want to limit it to for whatever reason you want to do it. And every one of these functions will show you what the function formula looks like and how you customize it, and then kind of a little explanation of what it does. So the text area in the body is where you write the formulas, and white space doesn't matter. So spaces and breaks and line breaks won't affect the formula's execution. What will affect the formula's execution is something case sensitive or something that breaks the syntax. That is, you have this or that and this or that is in parentheses, and you forgot one of the parentheses. So it follows the formula in line, and if you don't close all the doors and all that kind of stuff, right? And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, guess what? You're probably not going to be great at formulas, but you can get good. You can get good. So anyway, we're not creating that formula. It's giving you instructions. So a formula in action. This one is displaying an account field on the contact detail page. This is called, and this is on the test, a cross object formula field, because you're displaying information from one object to the next so that it's there. You don't have to go click and find out what the information is. This is what I call the doctor office dilemma. So when I get a new doctor, they always hand me a clipboard. And on that clipboard, there's a bunch of pages. And on the top of every page is my contact information. So when I fill out the first page, right, I put a big number 1 on that page. And then when I fill out page 2, in the contact info, I say, see page 1. I'm not writing it again because it doesn't add any value to my life, and it doesn't stop you from looking at page 1. So go ahead. You already got that data captured. So let's do a formula. Let's do this example because I think that's what they're going to want you to do. Let's write a formula. It's really simple. You could do the one before. I don't think the one was an actual formula. Yeah, no. All right. So let's do this together. Ooh, excuse moi. Okay. So we want to display information from another object. We do it on the object we want it displayed on. So it's coming from other places to display where we want it. So, and I'm going to flip back and forth, and let's see if I can do it like this. Okay. So now I'm just trying to get my screen set up because, again, I'm only using one screen. So I get it. It's tough to figure this out. All right. So I'm going to go click the setup. We're in the setup menu if you have it open still. Click on the object manager. And then we want to choose contact. In fields and relationships, we want to create a new field. The type of field we want is a formula field. We're going to call this field account number. And the type of information it's going to display is text information. And then I'm going to click next. So if I went too fast for you, let me know. I'll do it again. But I'm really just following these 6 steps up to step 6. I'm on step 6. And when you're ready, somebody yell out. I'm going to give you 30 seconds and take a bite of soup. Okay. Everybody good? So now, I'm going to click on the Advanced Formula tab. And hold on. Alexa, stop. Okay, what are you doing? Stop it. So I'm going to go from, let's see what they're telling me to do. Yeah, I want to go from the contact record that I'm on, right? I'm on the contact object from the contact record. I want to go to the account. Let's see. And then I want to go to the account number. See that field? So from the account, I went to the account number. The account number is not on the contact record. Why? Because it's related through the account ID. I can slip from the account ID to any of the account objects, records, fields. And hang on a second. Lightning doesn't play well when you resize the browser. So I'm going to do that so you can kind of see it. And then, yeah, that does it. So the account number is what I want, and I'm going to click Insert. So I'm displaying the text value of the account number, and I'm going to check my syntax just to make sure that it works. And there's no syntax errors. So this is a really, really, really simple. So now I click Next. And just like any other field we create, I'm gonna check the field level. Do I want certain users to see this or not? Do I want it? They can't edit it because it's a formula field. So all of them are read only. And then click Next. And then what pages do you want to add this to? And we're just going to add it to all our contact pages. So anyone you go to. So let's go look at a contact record. And see what we did. It's been a long day. If I click on the details page and scroll down, there it is. There's my account number. Boom! I can't edit it because it's a formula field. It's just displaying information from somewhere else. From across the interwebs to another object, it's a cross object formula field. Because I'm using information across the object. That's one of the answers of the test. Cross object formula field. That's all. Questions, comments? Let me know when you're done by giving me a checkbox or just say it. It's just us four. Julia couldn't make it today.
Where does it show the cross object terminology that you're saying is on the test? I'm not seeing those specific words.
You won't. That's why I'm telling it to you.
That sounds like trickery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got it, but it is and it makes it, by the way, when we go through the tests next month and we start going through some practice tests, we get through some of the basic, all this information, it'll make sense that that's the right answer as long as you know what's actually happening. And it might live somewhere, but not in the system. It's not anywhere. I agree with you. In my world, it's so much better if you can match it to what's on the screen and learn the screen. And this one is not. Okay. Did you get it? Did everybody get it? You ready to go? So let's display the number of days until an opportunity closes on a report. So you can use formula fields in reports. And you want to have a report column that displays days until an opportunity is closed. So we're going to create an opportunity to test the formula. New, fill in value, select any stage, select close days at least 3 days in the future, then create a custom formula field called days to close on the opportunity. Okay. So here we're going to create a field. If you haven't created opportunities, shame on you. So just copy that. I think all of y'all have. And if you haven't, go do it, because we're going to go back to the setup menu, change objects, and do what it says. We're going to create a formula field on the opportunity object. Now, just type OPP. Yeah, you know me. Click on the opportunity object, fields and relationships, and then a new field. And if I move too fast for you, it's because you should be getting used to this creating new field thing by now. But if not, let me know. I'll walk you through it. Now, you may not have noticed this, but on the contact object, the roll-up summary field was dimmed out. But on the opportunity object, roll-up summaries are not dim. We're going to talk about roll-up summaries next. Roll-up summaries only work on certain object-to-object relationshippers. Opportunities can have it because of the products and other things they have. So we're going to add the field name, days to close. And then this is going to be a number output. And I'm going to check to make sure. Yep. And then we're going to jump on in. Now I left 2 decimal places on there, but you know, because it's a number and days don't happen, if we're not calculating, you could leave it at 0. Or you could leave it at, it really doesn't matter because it's always going to be whole numbers anyway. So now we have the formula. So now we need to create the formula, right? How do we do that? So it's just a simple calculation. Let's figure out the calculation. It's a simple formula as well, because you only need information that's only contained on, whoops, because it's a number. Did I kick it right? Yep. Huh. So we got to go to advanced formula just to get the field that we want. Because it's a simple formula, but it's a field from it. So the close date is a date. I'm going to insert that field. And I'm going to subtract that date in the future, which is a bigger day, right? It's day 107 out of 365. So if I'm today, then there's a function for today. Today, open, close parentheses. And that's my formula. So today, subtract the close date from today, and you should have a number that's smaller or a positive number. Doesn't matter, it would still reflect a negative number, which you can use to trigger like a red flag or something else. Again, I choose the visibility, I choose the page layout, and then I click save. So now when I go back to an opportunity record, or if I just create an opportunity record, I got 12/50, close date is March 15th. I'm going to say this is a new customer. I don't need any of that stuff. Click save. I couldn't edit the field because it's not editable. It's a formula. So when I open that opportunity, look at what happened here. Now, if it's really prominent, it's just on the page right now, just kind of entered. Where's my days to close? Did I add it everywhere? What? Let me make sure I added this to my opportunity layout. Oh, there it is. Where is it? Where's days to close? So I lost the field under lead source. Okay. So on the details page, days to close, it confused me because of the 2 numbers. Well, like, damn. Let me take those two dots out of the way because this is just me editing because I think it sucks. Let me edit the formula and I'm going to change the number and I'm going to take out the 2 decimals because I don't need that. And now I go from 10.00, which is a crazy amount of days. So again, timer. Okay. So now what y'all see it? Did you get y'all's to work? And look, you might in your selling, the reason this is good is because in your selling process, if you know that, your selling cycle is, let's say, and I'm thinking about you, Brian and Amy, when y'all worked for Waldo, you got an opportunity and they say, we're going to make a decision by Friday and today's, Friday next week, and that's 8 days. Then if you haven't collected certain information because you sent something out 2 days in advance and it takes you 2 days to do it, you might want to get alerted that, hey, we got 5 days before this information. So I got to send this stuff out tomorrow. That's your priority trigger. You say, I should be at the perception phase before 5 days out because I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I can't do it without the information that's required at that phase. So it triggers you what you need to do to get done. That makes sense? That's how you can use this and not lose track of anything. All right. So it wants us to create a report. Is everybody good with this field? So we can create a report now or no? Anybody need help, time, or something else? Okay, great. I'm going to take that as agreement and that you're ready. So there's no complaining about me not waiting for you. Okay, reports. I'm going to create a new report. And I'm going to create it on opportunities. I'm going to call this report days to close. And then what do I need to do? Let's see. I want to add that field as a column and remove some other stuff that I don't like the fiscal period, probability, expected revenue. I'm just taking some default fields. So the age of an opportunity is good, right? That's a built-in formula field. Maybe you don't need the role. And I'm just going to go days to close. If I type in days to close, that field will be added as a column. And then I can move it around and say, all right, it's at this stage. It's this old at this stage with this many days to close for that amount of money. And, layer it out to where it makes the most sense for you, whatever your mind is. And you might even want to group it by opportunity owner. I don't care. It's up to you. Whatever makes sense, right? And then click save and run. And remember, you have to give it a name and put it in a folder. And while we haven't talked about this a lot, the folder you put it in can be either public, which is already shared publicly, or a folder you created and you can control who has access to it by how you share it. I'm just going to make it a public report. If you're the only user, it doesn't really matter, but another way to control access to information is to control access to the report folder. There it is. I got one opportunity that's 1 day and 0 days old and 10 days to close. And then, okay, so that tells a story. Dominic is working with this account on these opportunities. That this one's this old in this stage, and it's only got 10 days to go. That could trigger a lot, and you don't have to think about the math. You know, and you know, okay, that's it. All right, so if you save that report, awesome, good for you. Let's move on to example 3. So the power of 1. How do you count stuff that isn't easily counted? So you could use a formula. So often organizations definitely want to count the number of unique objects in a report with hundreds of records. Say you got 100 opportunities listed in a report, but only a handful of users own all these opportunities. How would you find the number of distinct users? But it's actually easy. It's called the power of 1. And that's where you create a field and the formula is a 1. That's it. The formula is a 1. You just put in the number. It's the power of 1 field, right? So we're going to create that, I think, in a minute. And then what you can do, we'll actually update this report and it'll show 1. So let's create unique users as a field on the opportunity object. Okay, so let's go to the opportunity object. I'm going to create a new field. Obviously, it's a formula field. It's a number field. And it's 0 places. And then I'll click next and jump in the form. Everybody good with me doing this and clicking next? Or everybody need to see me get there again? I'll click next. Pop in 1. Click next. Check visibility. And hit save. Now, if we go back to our report, trying to think I want to create some more opportunities first. Let me look at something real quick. See why it only returned 1. I didn't really look at the filters, but I thought I had more than 1 opportunity in here. Oh, okay. So I had a filter, all opportunities, close date, current fiscal quarter, but I'm going to make that all time. So what I did was I edited my days to close report, if you kept that report. I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to take the grouping away. So I'm just going to make it a regular report. So again, I changed my filter from all opportunities this fiscal quarter to all opportunities, all time, any status, any probability. So those are my scope filters. I didn't add anything. They just set the scope of the records that I'm going to return. Then I'm going to add a column called unique. Oh, you know what I got to do first? I got to refresh the page. Yeah, I'll really lose the sites. I'm good with that. I got to refresh the page because my new field really isn't loaded up into the memory of the other browser tab until I refresh it. So it's got to go grab that as an available thing. So let me check what I changed. I'm going to put that back. Whoops. Let me check my filters. So I'm going to go back to close date, all time. I didn't save this stuff. I just refreshed the page. And then I'm going to add my field unique users. And then hits, I got to refresh. This is a new feature in Lightning. So it doesn't generate a preview unless you ask it to, which is a huge time saver while you're building out reports. I'm going to summarize these. I want the sum of that unique user field, and then I click save and run. And the reason it only, even though it returns one, because that field is only one, right? It says unique users one on all of these, but it doesn't count it twice. If I'm mistaken, if I got it right. Did I hit summarize? Unique users. Mine. Nope, what did I do different? Oh, let me make sure I got it right. Sometimes I move too fast. Summarize. Oh, I unchecked it. That's why I didn't do it. Now I can save and run. So this is the power of that number one, right? So what it's really doing is only counting, even though there's different opportunity owners, it summarized it to that. What did I do different? Unique users is a number return type and then 0 decimal places down the list, right? So unique users. What did you get, Ewens? My formula is 1. Oh, I think something else is happening here. Let me see. Did you get it to work the way as expected in the exercise, or did you have the same trouble I did?
I was having trouble.
Hmm. I'm going to take out something here. Let's take that out. I think I might have done something different in the report. So let's just see. Let's see. All right. Well, the power of one, not done. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that's what they say. Doesn't work as expected. I don't understand why it's recalculating it that way, but I think I'm going to call it their mistake, not mine. I did exactly what it said. All right, to debug a formula, I'm going to go on. I'm not going to sweat it. Are you? Mrr. Oh, hate it. All right, I'm not going to sweat it. Okay. So the couple other examples. That's really good, by the way. So some DW. The check syntax is important because you're missing some type of parameter. Usually a parentheses is what you're typically missing. Incorrect parameter type. You can just study these, but you get an error, right? You pick the wrong function. So you pick the wrong data field or information for that particular formula. And again, I'm not great at formulas, so if you want to be great at formulas, what I look for is green. And whatever it says, I try to just fix it. Incorrect parameters, function len, expected text, received number. Okay, incorrect number of parameters for the function. So the function returns that, or it's incompatible with the formula type. So if your account formula is a number and this is a text field, then or date field, it's not going to convert it, right? Or the file doesn't exist because you didn't add the right file name. And that's why I use the insert command. Or if you have text, literal text, then you got to put quotation marks around text. That's how computers read text. Fake function. If you misspell a function, you can only use the functions from the other one. So another one is, let's look at some other examples because these seem interesting to me. Create a hyperlink to a website using the hyperlink function. So adding hyperlinks to page layouts. So now, so there's now a field type called URL. So I think that one's pretty useless. If you want to round discounts up and down, I totally get that. That's the round function. I wish they'd show the discount. Oh, so if it's like rounding the result to 2 decimal places using the round feature, that makes sense. So you don't get crazy long numbers. And whether an opportunity is a big opportunity for your organization, what's a big opportunity? And if it's greater than X number of dollars, you can trigger the big opportunity alert. Although there's a feature built in for that, but it's good. If you want to know more about this stuff, then you should definitely do it. So we are going to create one to complete our challenge for the contract, with a C. we're going to call days remaining. What's good about this is if you've got like, I don't know, a learning contract with people and it says, hey, within 30 days, you need to renew. This is great for that. I'm going to minimize this guy again. And then jump in the challenge. So I'm going to go back to my object manager. I'm going to click on my contract. I'm going to add a field. And it's a formula field. Formula. Adrian. Yo, Adrian. So I'm going to create a formula field with as a number to give me the number of days remaining. Everybody good with that? I'm going to add this to all my, I got to do my formula field. So how do I do the cut? How do I do this formula, right? Because now I got the field, I got the number, now I got to create the formula. So give it a shot. I'm going to work it out too because I'm not great at formulas. But I think if I know my operators well, I know my fields, on the contract, there's probably an expiration date. Contract end date. So my end date minus today. That should give me the number of days remaining. Would you agree? Today, that day in the future minus the end date day in the future minus today is going to give me a difference, a delta between the two, and that's the number of days remaining. Make it visible for all profiles. That's something you want to make sure you do. I don't know what they check. Let me click save. And then if I really want to see it, I go to my app launcher. Type in contracts. It'll open the contract tab. I'm going to create a new contract. Now, yeah, you notice I can't, when I'm editing the page, I can't see that contract detail. Why? So it's an 18-month contract. How many days left? 310 days remaining. Now, I know that that field should not have two decimal places because they're days. I'm going to change that decimal places from 2 to 0 because that's sloppy work. And I think they're going to penalize me for it. And let's see how it works out. Let me refresh my screen. Again, isn't data great? What? Is it a number or is it text? Can I make it a number? Let me check my taxes of sin. So there's a function called, oh, I did it. What? So it is supposed to be a number like I thought. I think it was literally looking for the two places, the two decimal places. So I got it. You didn't have to change it to a text field. I thought that was weird anyway. I was going to convert the date to a text, but it just needed 0 places and my syntax is good. Questions, comments, concerns. All right. So let's go to the next one, which is roll up summary fields, which will leave us in a good spot before we do validation rules. Because roll up summary fields are the same thing, except different. They're a formula field, they calculate. However, they only calculate in certain circumstances. So what they do is they count child records. So it's a total of related pending opportunities, a total that sums up the unit prices of products that contain a description or something that the parent wants to know about the children. So it displays, and here's the difference between a formula field and a roll-up summary field. A formula field does not store data. It only stores the formula and calculates the result on runtime, which means when you open the record, include it in a list view or include it in a report, that always runs the formula. So it's called runtime formula. A roll-up summary field actually calculates the moment you make a change to the child and stores the data in the parent record. So you can actually search on all my accounts that have at least 30 contacts or more. You know, you can search on that. So it requires a master detail relationship. Now, what is that? A master detail relationship is an Uber lookup value. So I'm looking up from the contact record to the parent, which is the account. And when I'm creating that field, if that lookup field is required, it's more than likely a master detail relationship. And the master parent can calculate the number of children because it is a required relationship. Does that make sense? So the sum of all my opportunities can show up on the account because the opportunities can't live without the account. And you could do things like count, you count the number of records. You could total up a number, currency, and percent fields that are available as a summary. You could show the lowest value and the highest value. So that's it with that. So let's do a sum of opportunities in this example real quick. So on the page, there's an example of this. So I'm gonna go to my object manager for the account because that's the Uber parent that lives in Salesforce. And you know, and in reality, practical application, you don't have to think of any of this because it's parent-child relationship. You can look at schema build, you can discover it. But when you go to create a new field on an object, here's how you know if you create a roll summary. That's right. If it's not the parent, you can't create it. If it's not the master in a master detail relationship, you can't create it. It'll be dim. If I go to my, and I'm giving an example while you're looking to go somewhere else. if I go to my case, well, cases can have, I think, roll-up summaries of other stuff in the case. But let's see, I don't, maybe, like, definitely case is a more robust object. Yeah, I could do that too. So let me go to my contact. I know that one's. Contact is definitely at the end of the line unless you created some relationships. So if I try to create one, again, you follow the instructions. Just watch me if you want to see it. So as I create, see the roll-up summary is dead, I can't do it. The children cannot create a roll-up summary unless you connect a required field, and I mean required data is required, to the contact object. And I don't think you can make it a master. You might be able to, it depends on your setup. We'll see. Anyway, it is what you see on the screen. Okay. I'm going to create a roll-up summary on the account. You might be ahead of me right now, hopefully, or you're with me. Sum of opportunities. Oh, Google, you're pissing me off. Chrome, you're pissing me off too. There it is. Oh. So it gives you this calculation. What do you want to summarize? And really, there's only one you can summarize, and it's the sum of the amount. So again, let's see. You could say the sum of unique. Any number field, you could count other records. You could count the opportunities, get a sum of any one of the number fields. What's the smallest opportunity? What field do you want to aggregate that on? What's the max opportunity? What's the max or max something? Max expected revenue out of this account, whatever it is, right? We're going to do the sum of the amount because that's what our field name is, right? Now remember, it stores this data as a result because it calculates the total anytime one of the dependent children update the field, or really on save, it updates it no matter what. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it does if it, but it calculates all that and then stores the result in the roll-up summary field. So the thing you want to remember about roll-up summary is that it stores data. So it's distinct from a formula field which does not store data. So now when I look at my accounts, and I go to the detail page, I can actually see the value of my accounts. Who had a what? You can complain all you want. All right, so some examples. Let's see. So, oh yeah, so you want to know the date the first opportunity was created on this account. You got 37 opportunities. When was the first time we did business with them? That's a great example of a roll-up summary. The min field. The total price of all products related to an opportunity. Right? So the total list price before discounts that get created to confirm the amount. You might want the total list price to see what the total is before discounts. That's a great one. We lost somebody. Who did we lose? We lost Brian. The minimum list price of an opportunity. So what's the minimum price on an opportunity? Of all your opportunities, what's your smallest one? So congratulations, I love it. So it depends on the type of calculation and the field you're trying to calculate on. Really, formula fields like roll-up summary fields, you got to play with them till you get your result. So we're going to create a roll-up summary field. And we want the potential, we're going to call it potential value. And it should be pretty easy. It says watch this, calculate the total expected revenue. So I just kind of demonstrated that to you. I pre-framed it for you. So on the account, we're going to create a potential value that's adding up all the opportunities by the field expected revenue, which is a calculation of, right? We're going to do the opportunities and we want the sum of the expected revenue. So the expected revenue is a calculation between the amount of the opportunity times the probability that you're going to get that revenue. So if you had a $10,000 opportunity, but only a 10% chance you'll close it, or you're at the 10% stage, then that opportunity will only be worth $1,000 when you're calculating total value for that account. And that changes every time you change one of the fields that calculates the field that is impacted by it. I don't know what you mean, Amy. I'm not sure what you said and what you mean in your chat. So now on this account, I could summarize. So I have a total of $100,000 in opportunities, but only a value of $10,000. That means I got more work to do to close that gap, right? So that's really good intel, again, that you can use for reports, list view calculations, filters. Show me all, because they're roll-up summaries, it stores that data in the field. If you could look at that in a list view, it's going to store that data. That number is actually in as a field. So you can export it and multiply the data. With a formula field, you can't export it because you lose all the connections to make the calculations. Formula fields only store the formula, not the result. Is that helpful? Now, we probably won't finish this, but it says we can. But let's talk about it, and then we'll pick up here and we'll do it. You can do it on your own for this challenge. So validation rules verify that the data that's being entered by users meets the standards you specify before they could save it. Now, I know I just read that. I didn't really realize I was kind of on the same roll. Now, when you write the validation rule, you're writing the rule to trigger if the result of the formula is true. The way I like to say it is, true triggers action. Did they buy? Yes. Bing, triggers some action. Now, there's another kind of validation rule that's called the system validation rule that we talked about earlier. System validations rule run before custom validation rules. System validation rules define, is this text that you're entering into this text field? Is this unique and you're entering into this unique value field? Is this required information that you've added to this field that was required at the system level? So you notice when we create fields at the system level, when we create fields, you'll notice that on the page, the creation page, whoops, that's right, I picked the wrong type. Checkbox. Checkboxes can't be required. That's dumb. So let's say you have a date field and you go through all the processes. That right there, when you're naming it, and you make it required, the impact of, and this is something you gotta know for the test as well, but the impact of making a field required, watch this, is, it just added that, I don't need that. So it is visible for all profiles, and you cannot make it read only. So that's just something that it's going to test you on. Like, it's like, hey, this does this automatically. Are you aware of it? And it's going to give you a test. Why is that? Because if you make a field required at the system level, it's also going to be added to every page layout. Every user can get to it and everybody can edit it. Why? Because if you didn't let a user enter data in a required field, they couldn't save the record if they don't have access to that field. And you can't assume that the data will be there already, right? So they have to be able to edit it. They have to be able to see it. Can't hide it. You eliminate it from field level security. So we use custom validation rules to write a formula that says, if this, then that, if it equals true, then you trigger the warning sign, you trigger the validation rule to stop the save and correct the data. You stop the save and correct the data. So like a validation rule that says, hey, look, when you're entering in an account number, that account number should be no longer than 8 digits. It should, and you could also, now look, that's the length should be no longer than 8 and no less than 8. You know, you could make sure that it's exactly 8. No more than 8 or no less than 8. So 7 or 9 will trigger it. This example is just, hey, the length of the account number. Let's see. Doesn't have the length of 8. So I guess that's what the little exclamation point is. And then the error message should be put in human terms to say, account numbers must be 8 characters long. So somebody can't put in a 7 or a 9-digit character and save the record. And nothing happens until the record is saved. So when we start talking about the order of execution and how things occur in automation, when we get to automation, nothing happens until the record is saved. So the system validation rules have to fire and pass. The data validation rules have to fire and pass. And then the record can be saved. And depending on that record and it being saved, triggers the appropriate automation. So a couple of validation. This says, it's a formula, right? That says, hey, it's not blank and it's not a number. That's what these formulas are, right? And it's an and condition, not an or condition. So it's both of the conditions have to be true in order for this to validate that the account number field is not blank and it's not a number. And you could say, it's account number is not numeric. And then the other error message, right? Because a blank is not numeric either. Data must be in the current year. So this is a good one, right? So the year of my date, whatever that field is, the year must, well, I forget what that operator is. Let's look at it for a second. I think equal to or not equal to, that's what it is. The two alligators fighting. Not equal to, yeah, not equal to. So the year of the my date field is not equal to the year of today. If that's true, it'll trigger the validation rule to stop the save of the record. So that is not equal. So the year of this field called my date is not equal to the year that matches today. If that's true, if it's not equal to that, then it triggers the action of stopping the save. Does that make sense, everybody? Here's another one. Validates a date range between two custom fields. Salary min and salary max is no greater than 20,000. So the salary max minus the salary min, if it's greater than 20,000, then it triggers the rule, say, hey, the salary range must be within 20,000 bucks. So in your salary range field, right? If you enter a salary range between the max and the min, it's going to calculate those two custom fields to make sure that they're within your specific parameters. And they did that in order to enforce workplace equality. So people have the same equal pay and all that kind of good stuff. Somebody just point. I don't know what the point was. Oh, that might be my little notice. Another one is website extension. So you can't put .fak. You got to have the last four characters of a website field should be .com, .org, .net, because that's all you deal with. If any of those are not equal to, and that is true, it's not equal to this, not equal to that, not equal to this, not equal to that, true, trigger. And it goes from there. Valid billing country. Now, this is always a fun one. And when you get to things like this, usually you just copy and paste them or get them from a place called GitHub. It's a tool that you use to do work. You don't have to do it twice. So the challenge on this one, to check that a contact's in the zip code of it's an account. We have 5 minutes, 4 minutes. So I want to add a validation rule, which will be true if the mailing postal code is not equal to the shipping postal code, which is on the account record. We could do that quick. So we're going to go to the object manager. We're going to go to contacts. We're going to create a new field. We're going to create a formula field. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We're going to create a validation rule. Whoops. I was going to a formula. Like, why am I doing a formula? We need a validation rule. Validation rule, create a new rule. You shouldn't do a lot of validation rules. You only do them when they're important. So the validation rule we need to create is called contact must be in account zip code. And we're going to insert the field, the contact field, mailing zip code does not equal the account shipping postal code. So these are physical addresses. Oh. So that's the first part of the formula, right? But they also want us to do a double whammy, which is an if statement said I can use is blank. Oh, I might not be able to get there. Is blank and the field account ID on the contact. That means they don't have an account ID. So is blank, and I doubt that this is right. How do I do a not? I'm gonna be stuck on this one. So the mailing postal code does not equal the account postal code. This is the first part of it, right? If that's true, then you could say the address of the contact must be the same. That's my error message. And I decide where to put the error message, either at the top or at the mailing zip code. And if I click save, this is not going to work, but it will work in reality. So anyway, we'll come back to it later. We'll pick up where we left off. I got to go research what it is. If you find the answer, bring it next week. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next on Monday. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you later on. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.